The bottom line, we're lucky we got out and we're doing.
We're doing.
Whatever we're doing, it doesn't matter as long as we're out.
No, you're doing good stuff. I like what I hear about you.
Oh, well, you're doing good stuff, or I could be out of business. The world is good.
Yeah, we are.
I'm under like at least 90% are peaceniks.
Yeah.
That still leaves 700 million Meshuggahs that we have to try to help stop beating each other up. That leaves
right.
700 million. If we say 90%, well, that leaves 10%, that leaves 700 million. There's not 700 million crazies.
There aren't 700 million crazies? Hell, I know 700 million crazies.
Wait a second.
Are you crazy?
Well, wait a second. Let me put it this way. There's probably 7 billion crazies, but the point is that there's not 7 billion warriors.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Okay.
Gun-toting crazies is what you're talking about.
I'm sorry?
Gun-toting crazies is what you're
gun-toting crazies and beat-you-up crazies.
Yeah, that's right.
They're the crazies. We got to tell them to, well, let's just get rid of their guns. How about that?
Cool.
You put them out of their business, and then, you just like, the deal is done.
Yeah, that's right.
You get rid of them there. We just did a big nuke show, commemorating Hiroshima, whatever. But nobody needs bombs. We don't need anything. We did enough damage with our voices.
You're sure right about that. You know what? We are some team. We've been on the phone together for about 3 minutes, and we've already solved the world's problem.
You know why?
Why?
All right, I'm recording. I'll tell you why.
Why?
I'll tell you why. Because when I got my master's degree at Fairfield University, the Jesuit priests taught the Jewish kid all about communications, okay?
Yeah.
And the theory, the philosophy, the psychology, the thinking of why we communicate, why we don't communicate, blah, 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 blah. For me, there was a show, and I went to Fairfield University in Connecticut. I'm a New Yorker, right?
Right.
And there was a show there, and I'm a musician, and I'm a nutso. And I said, there's a show that I want to, so I'd like to do shows. I've been making shows since I was a little boy, music shows and things like this.
Right.
I said, there's a show on TV, and I was a boob tuber. And there's a show, and it's called All in the Family. Mm-hmm. And I love this show. I say, here's a perfect, good example of how television can help humankind. We can show a bigot and not, and laugh with him and the family, and you can cry with him. And this is the perfect example of a use of, and it's so brave of CBS to come out and share that kind of a program with the world. Okay, and I said, when I want to get in television business, I want to work on a show like that, because I think that's the perfect, and I like positive news. I always did, and this is 30, 40 years ago, right?
Right.
So Dr. Carter, who I'm speaking to, Dr. Virginia Carter, is a senior, but she'll always be, I'm sure, senior vice president for Norman Lear, helped integrate groundbreaking social topics, in All in the Family, Maude, The Jeffersons, One Day at a Time, Facts of Life, and Different Strokes. Yay, winner of an Emmys, Peabody Awards, and PMC Success Story. We're going to talk about that. Tell It to Me Straight. And so I then went to work for CBS, and I got to work on All in the Family. So maybe I know you from when I was at Television City for 2 years as assistant manager of Television City Studios. Because I did All in the Family, I did Maude, I did Jeffersons. So I think we probably have a lot in common. But let's talk about what you're up to here.
Well,
surprise!
Let's do that. I'm having a lot of fun and feeling good about working with Population Media Center these days.
Okay. What's going on there? What is Population Media Center?
Well, Population Media Center is an organization that recognized some time ago that it's too late to be handing pamphlets out to people around the world and encouraging them to behave in helpful ways as our society gets itself into more and more trouble. It's too late to be handing out pamphlets. So what we do is focus on using broadcast media.
Yay!
To reach out to people all over the world in all the countries we can get into, and we're currently in about 18 countries. And what we do is we create dramatic soap operas, or telenovelas, as they're sometimes called.
I love it.
And those soap operas contain within them characters that serve as role models. And we model behavior in these soap operas that is helpful. We attempt to elevate the status of women. We show the dilemmas that girls and women are struggling with in their societies. We show good characters and bad characters in very intense, very exciting, very hot and sexy dramas.
That's what it needs.
And our audiences fall in love with the good characters. They loathe the bad characters. And pretty soon, as we broadcast these stories, the audience begins to pattern after the good characters. So we have had enormous success in countries around the world in modeling the desirability of small family sizes, in modeling how to get help in certain areas, like female genital mutilation that's all over Africa and some parts of the Middle East and Asia. How to get help, why to stop some of these practices, what child slavery is all about in West Africa, and we model the desirability of educating girl children, giving them access to education and medical care, because it turns out that if you elevate the status of women, there is a direct link between elevating the status of women and reducing the desired family size. And our world is sinking under the burden of having too many people. I don't know about you, Paul, but I remember my days in high school in the 50s, and the population of the world then was 2.5 billion. It's now 6.7 billion and rising rapidly towards 9 billion by 2050. So something has to be done. We don't have a sustainable world. And lots needs to be done, but one of the most important key factors here is elevating the status of women, because if you do that, you reduce the desired family size.
I'm with you. I have done many stories in this regard on this subject, because it's not that I did I did do those stories, but the world there's many out there doing those stories and involved with those kinds of things, and I honor and I appreciate what you guys are doing. Let me ask you some questions.
Sure.
Okay, so in essence, these shows are in English, and how are people literally getting to see them?
Oh, Paul, they're not in English at all.
Okay.
Here's what happens. Let me give you an example.
All right.
Suppose we're talking about Nigeria,
Yep.
where we currently have a radio soap opera running. We get invited by the key elements in Nigeria, say the president or the head of their telecommunications,
Yeah.
people way high up in government.
Okay.
We get invited. Population Media Center sends a team in there to see what's up. And when we go there, we ask first what it is that the government wants us to be dealing with.
That's the smartest question.
Frequently things like desired family size, because their population in Nigeria is already out of control and over the top, and the society is somewhat unstable as a result, and food is running out and clean water is running out. So it's going to be population, desired family size, and always when we deal with that, we're dealing with status of women, because we need to elevate the status of women in an attempt to reduce desired family size. And then they'll want us to deal with other things like HIV/AIDS, the rumors that abound around that subject.
Sure.
Or it could be female genital mutilation, a custom within certain elements of that society that is not dictated by any religious people. It's simply a tradition. And it's very damaging to women. It causes disease and death and so on, or marriage by abduction. So we're dealing with these kinds of subjects they ask us to. When we find the funding to do the program there, what we do is send in a team of trainers, myself among them frequently, and we then put together a producer and a writing team that is in that culture, indigenous to that culture.
Good.
And what we do is train them how to do the kind of soap operas I was just talking about before.
Right.
We tell them how to produce a soap opera that is hot, and sexy, that has within it positive characters that carry the attitudes that are positive, that we need to change towards the positive in that society.
Good.
And they create negative characters, the people who are absolutely against it, the mother-in-law who says, no, my daughter can't get an education, she has to adhere to the old ways,
right.
etc. and so forth.
Okay.
So we've got the negative, we've got the positive.
Gotcha.
But most of the characters in the soap opera are neutral,
Good.
and they represent the audience. They're sort of not informed on these subjects. They're confused which way to go. Should they stick to the old ways?
Sure.
Should they practice the new ways? Should they let their daughter get an education or not? Should the father help his son find a wife by using marriage by abduction? Things like that. So most of the characters are neutral. Now, my job is to train those writers, often through a translator, because we don't speak those languages. Train them not how to do the positive, negative, and neutral. That's technical and quite easy to explain. I talk to them about how to write a hot, sexy soap opera.
Okay.
Because dramas gobble up material at a great rate. And I try to be helpful with the writers. They're frequently inexperienced writers right out of small universities or small teaching academies in those countries, or just off the street if it comes to that. But bright, younger people, I try to teach them how to make a soap opera compelling, because we don't have anything if we don't have an audience. So it's got to be a wonderfully strong drama with all kinds of exciting stuff going on.
Okay.
And so that's my job, and I go in there and talk to them about that. Now, after we've trained this team in country how to do the soap opera, we get out of there. We can't tell them how to specifically write scripts that are understandable in the culture of that country. If we're in Nigeria, what do we know about the culture of Nigeria? Very darn little. So we get out of it at that point, and they go ahead and create a soap opera that they know their audience will dig. And then we help arrange, of course, the financing to get that on the air. And we find the studios where it will be put together, and we find the money to make it happen. Some comes from the country itself, but usually not a lot. A lot of it has to come from foundations and governmental organizations and United Nations groups,
Really?
like UNFPA or USAID or the World Health Organization or whatever.
Right.
So we help find the money to do all of this, and that, it's a lot of money we have to scrounge up, to do a radio soap opera.
Oh, this is radio?
Yeah, we do television and radio, but in most of the small countries in Africa, it's radio. In South Africa, they do television sometimes, and in China, where we've been, they do television on CCTV, and in India, they have done television. But it has to be a more advanced culture to have the money, and the people we're trying to reach have to have television sets if we're doing television.
Sure, yeah.
And if we're trying to reach people in essentially the bush in little countries in Africa, we got to do radio.
Sure, yeah, that makes all good sense.
So,
Addis, this is really wonderful, and I'm so happy to learn about it. Let me ask a couple questions, okay?
Sure.
And so, now, let's use Nigeria as an example, okay?
Yeah.
And I haven't been in Nigeria, but I've done multicultural marketing and advertising for a long time, so I've dealt with a lot of countries and so on and so forth.
Sure.
So, I mean, and every country has, and usually deal with the broadcasters from there. So I deal with the Nigerian Times, for example, okay, here in America. All right, and I know the guys that own it, and usually they're the ones that own the media in the homeland, right? Here in America, because this is the multicultural center of the world, USA, right? So if you want to watch, Chinese television from China, you just, put on some of the local channels. In any case, and those leaders of those places are here, physically live here, and so on. So Nigerian television itself, do they have? I'm sure they have programming, right, and radio and television and so on and so forth. But it sounds to me like, number one business of America is entertainment. business, I believe. The number one export. Our best thing, one of the things that we do, I think, is because of our multicultural heritage here in America. So we get a little bit, and we get the cruise. Everybody's got a little bit of a different feeling, and so on and so forth. But the guys that wrote All in the Family were from Brooklyn. So, where our studios are. And so in Nigeria itself, how is the programming? Because we are, we see this TV and we listen to this radio and we start to believe what we hear and watch. And I sense that you're coming and helping very much so, and with examining, like an All in the Family. To me, this is like the next step of the Jeffersons, and it's just in the country, and you're the pros. You've been doing it for 40 plus years of programming and know how to really get into it. So you're bringing that expertise, which is invaluable. So and then you come up with some good shows, and some people are learning in that regard, right? Do I have this similar? Is this sort of right?
You're on track. One of the key points that I'd like to make, Paul, is that when we go into one of these countries, Nigeria, for example, if we're dealing with, let's say, fistula. It is a condition that women suffer when they have babies, when their bodies aren't mature enough to really have the baby. And it causes them to leak urine, and they get thrown out of their families and onto the street. And it's just dreadful. So it's easy to fix. Medically, it's easy to fix, but people don't know that. So in Nigeria, we deal, among many other things, with fistula. And we go into the clinics where this can be repaired and find out how many people are coming into those clinics before we broadcast our soap opera. Then we broadcast the soap opera, and on it goes for months and months and months. And then we go back in and see how many people are going into those clinics for the repair of their fistula. Now, in Nigeria, we've been broadcasting for the last year, and the number of people going into clinics because of our broadcast has gone up by 43%. So we are saving literally hundreds of thousands of people the anguish of continually suffering from fistula. It's part of elevating the status of women, because in the course of all of that, we have discussed in our soap opera dramatically and with passion and energy, we've discussed the fact that young girls, age of 11, for example, should not be having babies. And so we're trying to raise the age at which young people become pregnant. And that's all working. And we measure it. We get hard data. We go in before and we go in after the broadcasts, and we actually measure the impact of our broadcasts so we know what we are achieving. And it's very rewarding because the results are dramatic. You know, Paul, that in the Western world, the broadcast media is powerful as can be. It persuades people to do things.
People actually believe that stuff.
Say again?
People believe that stuff.
Yes, well, they buy cars.
That's the big concern, so you better put something good on. That's the reason for just positive stuff.
Couldn't agree more. It's the most powerful media there is in the whole world, and we use it here in the West to sell cars and to persuade people to buy deodorant and all the stuff that's on our television and radio. That advertising is persuading people to do things. We've just turned that around, and we're using dramatic soap operas that the people want to tune into to suggest to them that there are certain things they can do to improve their own lives.
The soap operas are perfect. I produced Love of Life at one point, CBS, and I remember getting letters. I was the associate producer. I learned English from when they canceled it after almost 30 years, right? Yeah. I learned English. I learned about life, and so on and so forth. I love soap operas. I'm a soap opera kind of person, and I did it for many years. Here's an interesting article also, I think, just because we're talking about Africa, and 800,000 more workers needed in Africa to meet health goals by 2015. And maybe you're aware of the Millennium Goals by the United Nations.
Yeah.
And we're sort of been involved with that over the years. And they're talking about how 30% of the 1.16 million doctors, nurses, and midwives needed, according to the study published on August 6th, they need $2.6 billion. It's a mismanaged world, and we need more help, and communicating in the way that you're doing is really very, very special, and I applaud what you're doing. How do now? I see there's a YouTube link over here, but how do so the show would be in Nigerian language, right? I guess you picked the language of the country, the primary language.
Absolutely. Sometimes we do the same show in 2 or 3 different languages.
That's good news.
Because
you guys are so smart.
There are tribal aspects to this, where different parts of the country are using different languages. In Ethiopia, we do it in 2 different languages.
I once did a research study on the Asian Americans, and I think I came up to 110 languages in India.
Yes, isn't that incredible? When we did our broadcasts in India, I worked on a project there in northern India, and we did it in Hindi. Broadcast towards northern India, and our audience was 400 million people.
Yeah.
Isn't that extraordinary?
You can get the big numbers.
Entire audience of the United States.
You can get the big numbers in some of these countries.
No kidding.
And it's all good. Well, there's a lot of good things going on. Actually, I saw a 9 billion number, and I think someone had it. I was reading the Times, but somebody had a Wall Street Journal and some statement of population growth. I saw the number 9 billion.
9 billion is the projected population of the world by the year 2050.
Next week.
This is the year 2009. So we're talking about 41 years from now. The population today is 6.7 billion. And in the next 41 years, if we don't get hot and get this under control, the population of the world will be around 9 billion, which is 30% higher than it is today. And it's unsustainable. We are using up the clean air, we're using up the potable water, we're using up the fish and the biodiversity of the world, we're cutting down the forests, we're causing global warming. If we don't get control of this, we are in deep, deep doo-doo.
Well, Doctor, let me mention, I'll throw it out there just because it's part of my being. I'm a one world kind of guy. And so I don't believe in the country structures of, I believe it's a segregation of humanity, when we're all brothers and sisters, and this is quite a mismanaged planet. And 2 billion people, approx, don't have a glass of water, and all these concerns, and all exactly what you just said, right? And, I got a lot of bucks and time in this web broadcasting.
Yes.
I'm praying big time, and we put our whole thing on for the last 11 years because we hope that the world can get to hear the message that you are saying with what you are creating, okay? Because that message within each one of those countries, there's so much education can be learned. I mean, and All in the Family, the whole world could just watch that show all together and talk about it, right? And learn all about life and why this, why that, or at least have a dialogue of life, right?
Yes, it was Norman Lear's genius to put that show together and have it be about something.
Right, and we can take it and do so much, take and do more with it. Thank the Lord, it's still on the air and some of the TV lands of the world.
Yes, it's still there,
and it's a big honor and to know that, and that's a good thing. So I'm sure everyone, I'd love to hear them. I'd love to support what you guys are doing. In essence, we have something called Good News Planet. On Good News, and we just switched sites. We just updated our state-of-art news site, which is Good News, because now we're sort of a new YouTube ourselves. You can start to send your own stuff to us and comment on a story that we put up, blah, blah, blah. But the good news is that I also add multicultural advertising in that business, and I put it into Good News, and so I have it in Chinese, I have it in Japanese, and in Russian, and so on and so forth. And so we want to do it by country. So maybe we can broadcast if you want, or they'll allow, or whatever. We can talk later if you'd like. Where are you? You're out. Oh, you said you're in a great place. place. I'm jealous of you now.
I'm spending my summer in a little home I have on an island in British Columbia. But Paul, before we leave what we were just talking about, could I ask your audience, if they have a continuing interest in these subjects, to go to our, I am on the board of Population Media Center.
Yeah, so I want to know, where is that? Yes, of course.
We have a website that's got a lot of
stuff on it.
www.populationmedia.org. And it's got things there that I think are provocative and interesting, and it has little clips from some of the shows we've done, and it's just a pretty neat website with lots to learn and lots to see there. And I hope your audience will go and take a look.
We're going to take a second. You have a second more?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, we're going to go there, and we're going to look at it together, and I'm going to ask some questions on it.
Sure.
Once I get it up. All right. And I got it up. All right, Population Media Center, who we are, what we do, where we work, issues we address. Donate now, that's always a good thing. Vietnam, PMC's first program in Vietnam. Aspiration to Life. Aspiration to Life, yay.
That's the program in North Vietnam.
Yes.
I went out to Hanoi a year and a half ago or so and worked with the team there to put it on Voice of Vietnam.
Right.
A soap opera, and it's a smash. It's just so neat, that show. Dealing with HIV/AIDS issues and status of women issues and drug addiction issues. Just all kinds of things like that. A crack team there. They really know what they're doing.
Let me ask you a question, because I'm putting up Ashton Kutcher, Christy Brinkley, and a whole bunch of celebrity type. We're here in Manhattan. We see a lot of them, and a lot of them are doing good, and beneficial things. Are you able to get a superstar from Nigeria? Are you able to get a superstar from North Vietnam? The celebrity, the big rock and roller, the big video.
We always try to get somebody like that, and often we succeed in getting them to do the surround sound music, the theme song for the show.
Music,
which is really pretty wonderful, because music always attracts audience. You can do everything else right, and then if you add really hit music on top of that, you're home free. You've got an audience.
Those were the days.
Yep.
I love it. I love all of this. I love what you're doing, and congratulate. I'm going to ask you just because it's fun to ask, and I ask a lot of people this at the end, and we'll talk again. This is just part one of many. What's good news for you?
What's good news for me?
Yes.
Anytime I get the news from headquarters at Population Media Center that we're going to another country. And right now, I just heard we have the funding to go to Papua New Guinea. Wow. And Papua New Guinea is such a wonderful country, and it's got so much biodiversity. 5% of the plants and animals in the whole world, species, are in Papua New Guinea. And we're going to go there and help them reduce desired family size, because their population is beginning to really burgeon, and they're beginning to cut down the forests. And you can just say bye-bye to the biodiversity when that happens. Do you know, Paul, since we came to Population Media Center's website, the population of the world has gone up by 150 people? I'm watching it tick along here on PMC's website.
A lot of people having fun. No.
Well, that's true, too, and I've got nothing against the fun. It's when we increase the population that we've got a problem. We need it to go the other direction.
I took that apart of All in the Family show. No. I learned everything from Beatrice Arthur anyway, in all due respect.
Wasn't she a talent?
We love her. We loved her. And
her comedy timing was better than any other persons I've ever seen, or as good as the very best.
She was up. She was so gorgeous. Yeah, they all were. What a great group. And Norman is still doing well. We're involved with Pete Seeger. Norman's involved with Pete Seeger, and other good things. I need to speak with him because I love all the things he stands for and has done. So, okay. Well, thank you very much.